So welcome to the session we have now about innovation as a tool for growth. I am Jara Pascual. I am the founder and CEO of Collabwith and KnowCo, as well host of the podcast Business of Collaboration, talking about innovation and business. And I have 15 years of experience doing innovation, coming from R&D labs to more into innovation management in corporates, and now helping to collaborate between corporates, startups, and academics. So my question to start with the debate and all the panel discussions is about, I had a conversation with one consultant from innovation, and he said, startups and scale-ups has not to innovate because they have to focus on surviving. So I would like to, everyone in the panel will introduce themselves and answer to this question. So Christine, MacKay, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Jara. So I'm Christine MacKay from Salamandra UK, and we are an animation agency that conveys complex messages for our clients. We work in the B2B sphere, and we've got studios in Eton and Dundee in Scotland. And I'd say that with regards to your question, I think if you're worrying about surviving, I think you also need to look at the long game as well. I mean, there's lots of different ways of innovating. For example, we've got three-pronged approaches. One is finding innovative ways of networking, which I've got some ideas around. Also, keeping the team small is really important to keep that human element. But more importantly is creating an organic culture. And that you start from the ground up. And whether you're still in survival mode or whether you're sort of just looking for growth, I think that having a really strong culture that touches on lots of different elements is really important. And I'm happy to go through some of that a bit later once we've heard from the other panelists.
Yeah, Lisa?
Hey, my name is Lisa. So I am from Codam Coding College, and we are part of one of the schools of 32 campuses all around the world. And we are a campus that teaches students how to program, though we do that a little bit differently than most universities. I'd say we have an entire peer-to-peer learning model, and it's entirely free. So it means that we are a non-profit, and our main mission is to bring education to everyone. So it doesn't matter your background or what you've done before, what kind of diploma or experience you have. You just come and learn programming, and then at the end of the 3 years, you are a highly trained software engineer, and you can get to work anywhere you want. So my take on this, I think it's a very interesting topic. And I think, well, we're a school. I think the way that we run a school, it is a bit in a startup scale-up mentality. However, I do think that nowadays is that people, and especially talk a bit about the younger crowd, so let's say 30 and below, is that we want to hear honesty. And I think that is one of the things that we portray also with Codam. We've been fully honest about everything that we do. And I think that in the end is the best tool for growth. And for me, that is an innovation tool, because it's not anymore about commercially selling a lot of stuff, but it's actually having a conversation with your customers and being fully transparent about the mission and ideals and the goals that you have as a company, or in our school. In our case, it's a school.
Yeah, Arne.
Yes, hi. So my name is Arne van Oosterom. I'm here in Haarlem. I'm not sure if you can see outside, but the sun is actually shining, which is great. So I'm very close to Amsterdam. I founded Design Thinkers Group and Academy about 15 years ago. And nowadays I focus mainly on coaching leaders and creative leadership, or new leadership, or quantum leadership, or servant leadership, or whatever buzzword you want to use. I'm very big in buzzwords, and also trying to fight them. I struggle with answering your question a little bit, because to me it's very generic. It's like, what do you mean? What does surviving means, and what do you mean? Which startup? Where? What are we talking about? I also, by nature, a little bit, maybe more important background is that I have dyslexia and I never fitted into any system. So when people talk about startups, I always get a little bit like, what do you mean startups? We used to just start a company, your own business, you know, like, and now it's all startups and scale ups and yeah, I don't know. Yes, of course, you need to survive. Entrepreneurs always need to survive. I mean, this is just one of the many crises. I mean, I had already had in my life as an entrepreneur many crises, like financial crisis and the .com crisis, and this is just another earthquake. So when surviving means this crisis, a crisis is the most creative period ever. So I mean, it's not about surviving; it's about learning. It is about looking around and using this moment to change and create new things and innovation. Again, the buzzword is like, what do you mean with innovation? What are you talking about? So I'm a bit reluctant to kind of give you a straight answer there, but I think it might be beneficial for the discussion as well. So I don't know really if that is true.
Whoa, I'm sorry.
Wow.
That's ending in a bang.
That was a firework.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just gonna mute myself.
So, Philippe,
Wow.
That was.
you can
Are you
introduce
safe,
yourself.
Lisa?
Yeah,
Sorry.
the window is
this
not broken,
seems
so
to-
this seems to be safe. Yeah, I'm Philippe. I've been consulting on rupture innovation for 15 years, and I'm working with, I'm the co-founder of Innovation Copilots. And we are working on two sides of the market, the one that want to disrupt the market, the startups. And then, yes, I tend to have a very precise definition of what is a startup, because then everyone is a startup nowadays. And we're also working with industrials and large companies that try to survive such a disruption. So you asked the question about startups and scale-ups, and we might disagree, but the definition we have to know what we are talking about is startup 0 to 3 years. So no, Facebook is not a startup for sure. 0 to 3 years, not a business model yet, and trying to innovate something, which leads to the next definition, innovation. It's very simple, it's changing the market. Again, we can disagree, but changing the market is the simplest definition you can have about innovation that doesn't involve technology all the time. You might use technology, but it's not required. And scale-ups usually is the next stage, which is 3 to 5 years old. You manage to do some level of innovation, and you start to be in survival mode and start to grow and sustain what you started, which means that you are also becoming obsolete while you are doing that. There's no question of surviving for a startup in the way I'm speaking of it. For a startup, it's just about existing. It's about starting something and be somewhere and be able to survive for a few months. So it's not even being able to stay afloat and keep your team running. You don't have a team, maybe you don't have business, you don't have turnover yet. So it's really the stage from 0 to 1, and then there's 1 to 1,000, a million, a billion, which is the next stage. And yeah, the thing that is very weird to me, because this is actually a very niche market, is that since 6 months ago, everyone is there. From Renault Nissan to MacKay to Pfizer to everyone. Everyone is facing this huge shift in the market where we don't know what is going on in the next 6 months. So innovation becoming business as usual for everyone is kind of weird.
Yeah. So now, like, we are in this sense of innovation as a tool for growth, and now we touch this point of what is a startup. So I think there is one point of maybe we can debate here about how to make the link between innovation and business and then growth. Because sometimes always innovation is linked to creativity only and not to business. So how you would like to make this link?
I think it is quite linked in the sense of everything from that you would do as a business to grow your business and get your message out there and meet people, etc., that the more innovative you are, more creative you are in the way that you do that, the more likely you are to make an impression. I mean, if I talk about networking, for example, we run a couple of meetup groups, which are now all virtual. We run a pharmaceutical multimedia marketing and a tech and SaaS multimedia marketing. And that way we get to invite lots of interesting speakers. It's not a big sell, but we grow a community. And that way we get to help other clients and symbiotically do a lot of work. And sort of the creativity side of things, for example, when we as an animation studio, when we come up with a new project, everyone is involved and everyone's ideas matter, and creativity can come from all sorts of different areas. It doesn't have to just be the studio. So it's about thinking outside the box. And to Philippe's point and to Arne's point as well, you know, we are in a completely different environment. We are having to reinvent the wheel with everything that we do. But I think keeping it human, and to Lisa's point, that continuous learning for us is really, really important. For us, we've got a thing in the office, which is there's no such thing as a stupid question. And that sort of supports everybody to make mistakes, ask questions, try something new. And that's in every department. So, for example, we're just changing our accounting package at the moment because the last one wasn't working for us. We wanted something more innovative that works for us. And the same with any animation that we do. We now do work in AR and VR. So it's about innovating what we already do, but doing it in a different way to serve a new market, to the points made earlier. So I think it's totally linked, absolutely. I think that businesses have to be creative in the way they approach every sector of their business. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah, I agree. So I have a small anecdote. So I mainly work for large corporates. I do some work with startups and help them. So I have some thoughts and opinions about that, but I mainly work with large organizations. And one of the things that struck me, we were working for a large technology firm, and they called their innovation departments their submarines. And so it tells you that, because every time, by the way, there's a lot of background noise. No, it's not me. So there is it tells you that they saw their innovation departments as basically groups of people that costs a lot of money, because they didn't really understand what they were doing, the business side of it. And so they had to kind of be below the surface in order to kind of protect themselves, because they are testing things and trying things, and like in every lab. So, you know, I work with a lot of pharmaceuticals, where the lab, for instance, is all about creative process. It's about trying. No one gets fired because they made a mistake, because that's not a mistake. It's learning. It's trying stuff out. But once you get into the business, meaning politics, all of a sudden that is dangerous, and that is a scary thing, and that's only costing you money. My point here is that a lot of the companies, when they're smaller, like these two businesses I'm mentioning now, when they were smaller, when they were founded, they were all about innovation and creativity. And the founders knew, and purpose too. They had a purpose, they knew what they were doing. And then we add on all these different silos and businesses, and you need HR, and you need, legal, and you need et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden, the core of your business, which is, because what do they sell? What makes the business, what makes them a business, is the innovation, is the things they come up with. Every time what they sell is what they come up with in the labs. But at the same time, they can't accept it. So there's an interesting disconnect or a tension, which can also be a healthy tension. So because, you know, that can be a healthy tension, but when it turns into an unhealthy tension, basically in your question, like, you know, it's if you can have a business without those innovations. A lot of these companies, all of the companies I work for cannot do without it at all. What if they don't innovate? What if they just stop innovating, coming up with new things? You know, they're going to disappear, right? They're going to be Kodak or any other company that's kind of refusing to move.
Yeah, because the market changed. The market
Well,
is
the markets are
changing.
always.
So if they don't adapt to the
Yeah,
market,
markets are always changing.
they can,
I mean, everything's always changing. Change is always. This is the other thing that I'm getting a little bit annoyed by, to be honest. I like as if now everything changes. You talk to my grandparents, unfortunately, they are not alive anymore. But the world, for them, they went through a world war. They saw the car coming into their. My grandfather was the first person to have a car in his street because he had a shop. They had the telephone, not smart telephone, television, not color television, television, traveling for going to holiday in an airplane, for instance. Change is when it's life-changing moments, life-changing events. Happens all the time. This one, we're right in the middle of one as well. But I think sometimes we feel that we are sort of the end of everything, of evolution, and everything stops here. And we're also really surprised that things are still changing. And at the same time, we're always telling ourselves everything's changing faster, faster, faster. We have to move faster, faster, faster. I don't know. I think there's language is important, and I think the discussion around startups and scale-ups and innovation, and sometimes so confusing that a lot of people get very nervous by just the language of it. And I think, and my last point is, and you might recognize it as well, there is also another movement which is about slowing down. It's for instance, there's a community called zebras, which is the opposite of unicorns, which says you can just be, you can start a company without wanting to be bought by Facebook or Google. Okay. You can just be happy. You can start a bakery at the corner. So a friend of mine, he started a bakery, and he has an amazing concept, fantastic, beautiful, and it's great. And then people say, why don't you open other shops around the country, and you should go international? And he's like, no, I'm happy with what I'm doing. It's okay. You don't have to be a startup. You don't have to be a scale-up. You don't have to be. So, we're stressing ourselves out. So talk about growth.
Yeah, I think you are right, Arne, in the point, like now, no, many years, they are misusing the word innovation. I think you can find innovation in any kind of track you have, or car or business you have out there. And as well, the case of this fake news, in all the magazines, newspapers, always they have these success stories from one day to another day, which is not true. So the expectations, or this kind of cultural construction we are building around this is pretty fake. So we are creating this kind of frustration around innovation growth and what does all this means.
Just to circle back to what Arne was saying, sorry, just quickly, about corporates getting too big and losing their creativity. I really believe in growing pods, and that's what we're doing now. We've got 2 studios. We're going to have a third studio, maybe a fourth, but we keep them small, and we keep it sort of self-sufficient, but still collaborative. And I think pods can work quite well in any corporate, and you don't lose the creativity. Then you don't lose the humanness and the knowing each other and bonding, etc. But you still collaborate with other pods, but your pod is, specialist to whatever department you're in. Exactly. And I think absolutely you can do that in corporates and still keep that creativity.
Yeah, of course. You see it happening. I mean, I think everything turns into networks and ecosystems. I think it's the natural. It is it anyway. It's just a matter of how you see it. I mean, and every company is a network and communities of people working together. But it's just the amount of freedom and responsibility and ownership to give those pods, if you say. So my company, we're in 24 countries, and all my teams are totally independent and free. We don't even have contracts, because we call contracts materialized distrust. It's all it is. It's just a bit of magic saying, oh, I'm going to write down. I'm going to write down what I want you to do because I don't trust you, and then I'm going to check whether you actually do it. And if you don't do it, I'm going to get my lawyer. So I need lawyers. And we're like, no, we're grown-ups. We believe in trust, and we have shared passion, shared value. We've been doing this for 15 years. It is awesome. People, you can trust them. They're awesome people. That if you understand purpose, and then people, get so nervous because it doesn't follow the rules and the guidelines. And I don't know. I think so. To your point, Christina, I totally believe that if you are in, and there's lots of research saying a company or a group of people working together shouldn't be bigger than, I don't know, X number of people. I mean, And you can have
Exactly.
global impact when you have a small company. I mean, look at what Instagram did, before they were bought. It was just a small team of people, and they had global impact. So the opportunity, and if you want to have global impact, because you don't have to have global impact. It's not growth for growth. So if you read Kate Raworth's Donut Economy, for instance, I totally believe in this concept of nothing in nature grows forever. It's very simple. When it grows forever in nature, we call it a cancer. That's not a good thing. It kills its ecosystem. Right? Why, think about your Apple or your Amazon. Where do you go from here? And your share will say, oh, you didn't grow X amount of percent this year. Like, oh, what's going on? It just kills its ecosystem. Why? Take care of your ecosystem. Be happy with what you're doing and work with wonderful people in an ecosystem. Call them pods, call them teams, call them whatever you want. It's David Gray's Connected Company. It's this wonderful opportunity technology offers us to do something with people that you really care about and do something meaningful. And I don't know, I think we're going there, I believe, slowly. Anyway, I have to shut up now. Lisa, you wanted to say something. Sorry, I'm getting all like,
excited. No, it's fine. I'm full part of excitement. No, I just wanted to come back to what you say, Jara, also in the chat, like innovation is business, is money is growth. I do think that there's a very important element that you're missing here, and that's the customer, the humans. Because for me, you innovate for your customers, right? So you have to listen to what your customers want. I can think in my team and say, okay, we're going to innovate this and do all of these crazy experiments. And what if no one needs it, right? Like, what if I just need to bake some bread or, like build a school and have some iMac set up and that's all people need? Then I don't need to innovate more, but I grow because for my customers, I give them what they want. So I think in this phrasing, I think your customers are evident to innovation. That's what I wanted to say.
Philippe? Yeah, thank you.
I'm following what you're saying, and if we shift the discussion maybe, and maybe we can do that about our businesses, because this is what Christine is starting to do, and Arne aussi. I think it's interesting. You were saying the end goal, the end game is not to be bought by Facebook. Well, be reassured that it's not a given, and it's not going to happen anytime soon for most of us, obviously. So I don't even think it's a discussion. Exactly. The discussion is, if we talk about the kind of business we are in, or the stage that is above us a little bit, but not big corporations, keeping a real added value on the market is the constant struggle, is the constant strive and drive for creativity, maybe, but passion for sure, and keeping the company. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a few years. We always wanted to keep the company as small as possible, and the idea behind that is that if we are as small as possible, we can only deliver the top value on where we are experts. And what I'm going to say, please don't take it the wrong way, but we always add a motto in the company is don't do web development. And I have nothing against that, but this is totally not my business. I'm consulting on strategy, and we're consulting on strategy and mentoring and coaching executive and startups. So the day we start to do something outside of this box, like web dev or whatever, we start to have people in the company that need to be fed by this kind of opportunities, which is not our core business. And now we lose focus. So for us, that's extremely, extremely bad. But just for web developers that would want to do strategy, probably also it's a bad idea in that sense. So, and just keeping the focus, there is a very huge misconception. It's hard because it's changing every month. The output to the market is changing because the input is changing and the market is evolving. Now, the speed at which the market evolves, and I might disagree on that, is tremendously important. We had the crisis in 2008, dramatic speed of change for 1 to 2 years. and we are living that right now. So yeah, there is some kind of ongoing change when it's business as usual that we need to take care of. It's already difficult. But then we have this crazy period of time where there's explosive changes in the market. And as someone that is a bit technical about that, I also love to remind everyone around me that we are not in this COVID-19 crisis right now. We are in the crisis in terms of healthcare for sure, but in terms of business, it's delayed. It's a ticking bomb. It's going to happen really next year. So if you think that the changes that we are facing right now are complicated, brace yourself, because next year is going to be quite fun.
Yeah. So I would like, I don't know if you want to follow up with this topic, but I would like to make a point, like all of you, if we are looking at your experiences and your backgrounds, you have a strong point on creative leadership and how to push creativity in organizations, in your teams, and this kind of bringing creativity to everything you are doing. It takes something on the leadership level, you know. It takes something on how you organize your organization, how you lead the people, how you bring people together to be creative. So how do you see this creativity on the leadership side? What is your experience here?
Shall I start? We try and, with the whole sort of continuous learning thing, it's very much part of our sort of core values, and the core values were put together by the whole team. And for us, it's, you know, we are constantly communicating in all sorts of different ways. So we start the day off with, you know, stand-up meeting. We finish the day off with evening rushes, where the whole company comes together. And now that we do it all on Zoom, it's not that different to what we were doing before, because we work collaboratively to studios. But we also find different ways of keeping us creatively minded. So we have what we call lunch and learns, and that can be absolutely anything. We've had learning about 3D animation, caricatures, origami, knitting. We've done model furniture making out of cardboard, and all this we've done remotely as well. So they're using screens and what have you, and that takes us out of our everyday environment, makes us, puts us in a creative spirit, a sort of a flow, if you like. And that I believe is really good, not only for bonding and getting to know each other and learning new stuff, but helping our creativity and keeping us on point from that perspective. We also, over the summer, had Wellness Wednesdays, where every Wednesday afternoon we'd go and do something completely different, sort of boating, ceramic painting, yoga, open air yoga, all sorts of stuff like that, just to get us outside and again, in our environment, you know, in sort of nature, what have you, to just, again, fine tune our sort of creativity. And I believe that, you know, so leading the business, it's really important that I focus on these things for everybody's sake, and that everybody buys into it, because it's what sort of builds us as a team, but also just keeps our mind ticking over in a sort of a fresh perspective. We also do lots of team building and lots of fundraising. I've managed, and people have volunteered. We did a ballet class where all the guys joined in, and we were all wearing tutus and crazy colors and everything else. We did a fundraising ballet class. We've done a sleep out for the homeless, and on that night we had rain and snow, where again everyone volunteered. So it's a lovely feeling of comradeship and teamwork, and that keeps that creativity flowing, because, you know, as I say, everyone's allowed to and is brought into new projects so that everyone can give ideas. For example, we had an apprentice. Every year we do a birthday card for the Queen, because she's our neighbor here in Windsor, and we couldn't think of a theme the one time, and our apprentice said, well, why don't we do the Queen sitting on the Game of Thrones throne, and call her, this is a couple of years ago, call her, you know, the Queen of all our realms and all this kind of stuff. And we did that, and we got a letter back from the palace saying, thank you very much for your, you know, card, etc., etc. It's all about, you know, involving everybody, keeping that creativity going by having not just the 9-to-5 stuff, but bringing that humanness, having fun. We now have coffee catch-ups virtually to talk about anything but work, so that everyone can sort of be connected. So that's some of the things that we do, and we try and, as I say, do different things and look forward to team building things. The next team building thing we want to do, COVID permitting, is the zip wire in North Wales, where you go down in tandem in these sort of sort of cocoon things and go across the whole valley. And everyone's up for that. Even one person we've got who's terrified of heights. So, that's how we approach it anyway.
That's super cool, Christine. Really super creative.
Thank you.
So, Philippe, how you are helping companies to be creative?
Muted, I think.
Sorry about that. It was to remove background noise. Yeah, just an example, something that was started just for fun and that has been immensely productive. I'm working cross markets in many markets, from retail luxury to defense and IT and banking, whatever. Once a month, we have a dinner with 6 executives, no more, no less. We cannot really talk business. We don't sell anything to anyone. And we just share experience, but we need to have 6 executives from totally different markets that are not connected or not in the same value chain. And it's immensely powerful. We had cases of, I can tell the name of the brands, of people from Nissan starting partnership with people from Chanel on some part of the premium brands they wanted to develop and all that. These people don't meet even in conferences or keynotes because they are not in the same play field and they have no reason to talk. So that's one key thing, and that we also use that logic on a very personal level also for our business. We have a commitment to do once a month something that we would refuse to do. So if someone is asking us to do, I don't know, a keynote on blah, blah, that, and we're not, for NGO, we're not working with NGOs, then once a month we'd say yes to something that we wouldn't do, whether it's pro bono or not, because it forces us to go out of the comfort zone in the place in the market that we don't know about. So it's very selfish, because of course it's just to learn and to be challenged as such.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. Yeah, thank you. Lisa?
I think for us it's a bit more complicated in a sense. We are a very small team. So we run a school of 500 students with 9 people. So you can imagine it's quite chaotic. But it also allows the team to be very bonded, I'd say. So we are all very different. So we have like the extreme programmers, we have the extreme communications, which is me. I'm very outgoing and talking all the time and mostly happy. But we have such different people in the team that we also learn a lot from each other. So obviously we do all the coffee catch-ups and team outtakes and that kind of stuff. But I think in relation to this conversation, for me, it's more interesting to talk about how we make sure that our students keep being engaged and growing as a person, right? So obviously they learn programming, but okay, that's a given, but much more in this peer-to-peer learning environment, the things that they learn is really how to work in a team, how to argument the things that you do, but also how to keep up with new technologies, with innovation, if you will. And one of the other things that we do, and I think this is very relevant, is that we have a student community that ranges from 18 to, let's say, 50. So it's a very wide range of people. So 30% of our it's not employees, but students, they are dropouts of high school, and at the other end of the tunnel, it's 30% of people who've done some kind of master degree and now are going to do programming, and everyone in between. So you can imagine it's a crazy community of people with working experience, no working experience, just out of high school, out of jail. It's a crazy mix of people, but also a crazy mix of ideals, which is very important. We have, as Codam, we have an important set of ideals, which is we want 50% women and of course non-binary students at Codam, which it worked. We got that, but it's also a topic that is very fragile, if I may. So what we do with our students is that once a week, we invite someone from the business to talk about what they do. And more importantly, once a week, we talk about a subject that matters. So either if it's about inclusivity, about equality, if it's about politics, if it's about Corona, you name it, and we sit, well, this is of course before Corona, but we sit everyone together, we get someone that is a professional in this topic, and we talk about these controversial topics. And the most important thing is that our students are allowed to not agree with each other, but at least to have respect towards each other. Because with the community that we have such different ideals. It's also actually very interesting to put this group together and just debate topics. Because I think in most universities, this is not really the case. But again, we are very different, I think, than I'm very different again at the three of you that are sitting here. But with our students, we make sure that they don't know only about the realm of programming, but they know about the realm of the world. And I think that is very important also for employees, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think that's super cool. Like, here, how to use creativity to change how we learn and how really means learning. That's is redefining learning and education. Thank you, Lisa. Arne?
So I can actually connect to that a lot. For me, also about creating an environment for learning. So I think the most important, so if you want to think about what leadership skills are necessary to and you, I don't think it's about pushing it. It's actually about letting it happen. Allowing the space, because people are creative. We are creative human beings. We're not as creative as when we were kids, because as many people said, and I have experienced myself, we are educated out of it. But we are creative. We're creative human beings. That's at our core of what we are as human beings. And I don't know if you, so one of the, there's it's called Sapiens. I don't know if you read that book by Noah Harari. And so I love this story where he, it's like, it's we all know this, but the way he describes it is very beautiful. So it is about what is the difference between Homo sapiens and everything else alive. One of the big differences is, and we are just, in my opinion, we are just animals like everybody. We're just part of nature. But there's something specific about Homo sapiens, which is our imagination. We can come up with something that doesn't exist, that's not real, but we can organize around it, which is a company. So you can imagine something. You can imagine something. Create a story around it. You might call it a brand, or you might call it a religion, whatever you want to call it, a political movement, whatever it is. We can imagine something and we can organize around it if we start believing it. I think that is amazing. It's so powerful if you think about that explicitly. So we are creatives. That's one of the core qualities we have, except that when we are stuck in boxes in companies and corporates or whatever, or in thinking we have to behave in a certain way because we see other people also behave in a certain way, or we're caught up in this arms race of technology, we kind of forget to break patterns and to allow people to take risks, to create a learning experience. Learning is taking risks. Learning is making mistakes. There's no other way to learn to ride a bicycle. We learn how to walk. We learn how everything we learn, we have to practice. We have to try again and again and again. We sometimes forget to practice because we're like, oh, it doesn't work because it didn't, it's like my daughter, she's 14, and when she was, I think when she was 10 at the time, when I said, well, I want to teach you how to play piano because I play some piano and I think it's great for your, you're going to be so happy in the future if you're able to play piano. And she would sit down and I said, okay, so try this out. And she would, like 1 minute after, trying, she said, I can't do this. And she walked out. Like, I can explain to you, like, your left hand should do this, your right hand should do that. You get it, you understand it. You can't do it because you have to practice. So creativity is also, and also for leaders, it is also about allowing people to practice things, to try. So how do you create that safe space when you are in a culture of fear, when every mistake, is you're in danger of getting fired or getting whatever? not getting your bonus or whatever. But all the incentives and KPIs are geared towards making you effective and linear. And then people tell you, yeah, we should be more entrepreneurial. We want you to be more innovative or more creative. You're like, yeah, yes, okay, boss, sure you do. But then I get punished. And I've trained many salespeople because we were asked to train salespeople. But then when they went back to their and they're very smart, people get this creativity. It's not all. But then they are afraid to go back to their boss and actually practice it. So this is where, all the innovative, like human-centric design methodologies like service design, UX, and also design thinking to a point, they are turned into workshops and turned into sprints and then you go back to your real job basically. And it was fun to do the workshop, but it didn't change your culture. It didn't do anything. So it's about, for leaders, this is the next step. We all know we have to be agile. We all know we have to be flexible. We all know technology is changing the society and our businesses and our markets really rapidly. Basically, by the way, my opinion is that technology should allow us to slow down, and not us trying to keep up with technology. It should be the other way around. But anyway, yeah. The point is that, you should allow as a leader to have a safe space for people to experience. And again, back to the pods that Christina was saying, you need to have those smaller teams. You need to have, and I love what Philippe said, we keep our company as small as possible. That's a really powerful sentence. If you think about it, I was thinking about it, as small as possible. That's really important. That's an amazing way of think about a strategy, because a lot of people will say as big as possible, right? You meant like we have to scale, we have to go. No, as small as possible. It's like same with new economics. You have the beautiful philosophy around minimizing profit. Again, it's very counterintuitive. What do you mean minimizing profit? Are you crazy? Yes. First, you think about what do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? How much money do I need to achieve it? And that's the amount of profit you need to make. Instead of maximizing profit, whatever it takes, more money, more money, more money. And we make everybody, 90% of everyone working in the corporate is unhappy. What? So leadership is up next. Leadership, people in leadership positions, and it doesn't mean hierarchy, by the way. We're all leaders. It's not about hierarchy. It's about you can carve out your own position. You are a leader. It can be self-leadership, it can be anything. How can you create a company where all your talent walks out because they're fed up with this rat race and this marathon they're walking? How is it? This is the big success of startups, I think, too, because most people are like, oh, can I just work in a startup because it's way more sexy, it's more interesting, might have a purpose. So my company, all my colleagues around the world, we're all we call ourselves the corporate refugees. We're like, I don't want this politics anymore. I want to do something with purpose and something that I'm passionate about. It's basic common sense. So how do you, as a leader, create that space, create those pods, create that, have a philosophy around this, understand how to make people happy and how they will work for you. It is it's all the buzzwords again, purpose driven and blah, blah, blah. But there is an essence there. It's a counter narrative, and there's the counter movement that is important. And so creativity to me, and then I'll shut up again, is about see patterns, understand, see them, break existing patterns, understand the patterns, but also see new patterns emerge, because creativity is also about recognize. Creativity is also about doing nothing. So also about, it's also against to Christina's point, sometimes you just have to go do something else. Mind wander. We don't have a language that explains the power of doing nothing, because it all sounds so negative. It's like a procrastination, it's being lazy or whatever, it feels like negative. Mind wandering is the only thing that kind of, makes some sense. Your brain needs to process. If you keep running, so especially in this crisis, like to Philip's point, this is just the start of the earthquake, right? So understand, and there's a concept of anti-fragile, which I love. Understand that you have to sometimes do nothing, let sink in, feel, So look around. Where are you? What's happening around you? Understand patterns. There's a big wave coming. You don't even see it. We're part of it. You don't see it, but it's there. We feel it. There's something going on. But be part of that and understand this. And I think if you keep running, you're just going to miss it. And again, if you're just in survival mode and you're just like, oh, hold on, the earthquake is almost over. It's almost over. And anyway, even if you do, there's going to be another one. So recognize patterns, understand patterns, and sometimes just go sit back, or go take a walk in the forest and surround yourself with other people, different opinions, and do other things. Don't just keep running. And so for a leader as well, make space for that. Make space for people to do nothing, like to go out and do something else and to disrupt, the common patterns. To allow space for this.
And talking about people, sorry, because we have to last question to the late. So
you have to shut me up, otherwise I just keep going.
Yeah. So the people topic, and as well because I believe in the personal connection, how to understand why we are thinking in that way is about our personal experiences and how we are as a person. My question for you all is, what is the experience you were learning the most from? Christine? You're mute. You're mute. You have
the T-shirt we all need. This is the most spoken sentence of the year. You are on mute.
The experience I've learned the most from, I guess from a business perspective, it's I'm really lucky. I grew up in various countries. I'm trilingual, and I also have traveled a lot and worked and set up businesses overseas. And doing that gives you some lovely different perspectives on what works in one market and doesn't work in another, and just different ways of doing things, the different cultures of explaining things and doing business. I think it gives you lots of different aspects and perspectives, and that I think is what's made me, probably being left-handed, has made me look at things in different perspectives. Being left-handed, you learn everything backwards, and you have to deal with tools that don't work for you. So I guess that just it gives you a different perspective, and I think it forces you to be creative because you want to create something out of all your experiences, if that makes sense. So I'd guess that's what's helped shape my thinking. There we go.
Yeah, cool. Lisa?
Right, because I was thinking about it a little bit. I think, again, our students are a crazy bunch and also not that the straightforward programmers. So there's a lot of people that I've met in the last 2.5 years that just blew my mind. And well, I think just to give you one example that pops up now, I guess, was this guy, and he was from Poland actually, and he worked behind the bar for 20 years of his life. He didn't go to school. He was a dropout of high school, just worked in a bar, and he saw this programming school. He's like, heck, I'm going to try it and see if this is for me. No clue. Never touched any code in my life. Didn't even come close to it. Didn't game, nothing. And he just sat down and it clicked. And I think it is, and this is very specific to what I'm doing, right? So I don't know if you can relate to this, but I think it is just giving a chance to people at the right time, at the right place. And also for what Arne said before, I can totally relate to it. It's just giving the people the possibility to fail. I think this is something that from baby, or at least if we go to school, it's the first thing that we learn. All the schools, they say, failing, you can fail, it's okay. But is that really true though? Because yet again, if you fail already in primary school, high school, and onwards all the way to running a company, you get punished for it in any kind of way. It's a punishment. It's not positive. So failing is the only way to learn. So it's this crazy, it doesn't link together. It doesn't work together. Sorry, I don't come up with the English word right now. But I think for me, seeing our students fail and grow from that is the biggest learning that I've had in my entire life.
Yeah, I think this, like, failing is like the dark side of all the emotions, it's like going into the negativity, and learning, in the positive side, there is not failure, it's learning. It's not in the vocabulary. Totally. very nice story. Philippe?
I might have a very standard answer to that, so I'm really sorry about that. But it's teaching. I teach not a lot, but I do that on a regular basis. And I teach business and innovation to some dropout kids in difficult neighborhoods. So I try to do that at least twice a year. And just the simple fact of trying to find a way not to connect with them, but to give them solid tools that would help some of them to create something business-wise is extremely, well, you are just butt naked. You don't have all the logical tools. You don't have anymore all the facility to talk about high concept thing and creativity and whatever. You just need to deliver something that is remotely interesting for them, which is hugely challenging. And then don't bullshit them and allow them to really do something with it. So that's tremendous. And the least popular answer would be to say also at the same level, which is not going to be popular, to also teach that to C-level executives, because they are also banned professionally in all the wrong ways to think about innovation. And teaching in executive MBA is, if you are honest about it, is extremely, extremely challenging in the way you need to have to learn from yourself and to look at all you are delivering when you do consulting or coaching, but to allow them to get that at a deliverable they can use and reuse without you, it's tremendously complicated.
That's true. That's also a very good point. And I would like to add as well the investors side, to teach them what is innovation, like how to be creative and to understand that point, not only the finance perspective or the impact, social impact benefits they can make in the society, because they have the power to decide most of the times, is to understand creativity and to understand innovation. Yeah, that's a very good point, Philippe.
Investors are very overrated.
Yeah.
Not a lot of businesses need investors, startups included. I mean, being homegrown and being profitable
they
from day one is an option.
They need customers.
Yeah. So to that point, by the way, I after having sort of all barely survived the .com crisis just before I started, we decided never ever to borrow any money from anyone ever again. Be totally independent. So we built our company basically taking small steps and just investing whatever we got as profit from the business, which allows us to survive now, because we don't owe money to anyone, and we made sure that we had a buffer for at least a year, because we knew there was going to be another earthquake, because we started, and then 2 years into our business, we had the financial crisis. So we've learned, again, I mean, that's a very different way of maybe so not having investors. And I know, because we didn't have to invest into machinery or anything. So, I mean, it's obviously, it's a different route. But what I've learned the most from, so although I do very much connect also to what Philippe was saying, to teaching. I think you learn a lot by teaching, because it is like, now I have to explain it to other people. So it's like, oh, and I'll tell you, for people who know me or know my business, we run an academy. We do a lot of courses, many programs. One of the first one was teaching them just a simple tool on customer journey mapping. It was the first tool. The first time I taught it, I never done it myself. Never ever done journey mapping, and I started teaching it. but I trusted, yeah, fake it till you make it, which is another topic I very strongly believe in. But the point is that I had to learn. I trusted my ability to kind of to put myself under pressure, and I'm like, oh, but then I really have to know how to explain it. But anyway, so that was a bit of a maybe a little bit mischievous. But the one thing I've learned the most from is because I'm a school dropout. And because I'm dyslexia and I stubborn and all that, I was working in factories and all kinds of jobs. I always think back to those times when I was working in factories and with truck drivers and which that taught me so many things about reality when I work, especially if you work on sea level. You're like, I know what they're thinking, how that is going to be translated, through the silos and through the through the line managers, to the workforce, the human resources they might call it. I like that. I like that. That taught me a lot, and being a school dropout and not fitting in and etc. It's the other thing. So. And dyslexia, so Jara, so every time I mention dyslexia, I always get people say, I have dyslexia too. It's a superpower. You're wired differently.
Yeah, it's your superpower.
You are wired differently. You are used to thinking, outside the box or not recognizing the box at all, because that's basically your brain works differently. People are wired differently. It's not a learning disability. It's not a learning disability. It might not fit you into the system that is offered to you, but you are learning, other things because you don't fit in. You learn so many other things that used to be a problem, but since a couple of years, it's actually really hip and happening to be wired differently. So you can make a career out of that. And people are, and another thing, and then I'll shut up. People with dyslexia people with dyslexia. It's a very nice fact to know. I just read this wonderful article. People with dyslexia are the best spies. Go figure. I don't know. It's because of patterns and seeing things differently. I just read this article. We make the best spies. I thought, really? Yes, cool. Anyway, totally unrelated fact there for you. There you go.
Thank you very much. I think that's awesome as well. To the power to connect at people level. That's a case we make today, not only discussing our experiences, our background, what we think, our opinions, but in conclusion, I think I was taking notes. I think one of the key points was learning. So how we can redefine growth to have our own journey. I think that's important. Small teams to make this huge impact. I think that's one of the things it's always there in silos. Innovation hidden there everywhere. How to move the people, how to bring people together, how to check it. And then it was a very nice point about how we can translate the imagination through to make it happen. At the end, it's like this part of innovation. You have some ideas, but you have to make them reality all together. So you have to bring people together to make it happen, and to try and to have this learning from 360 approach. I think it's not learning curiosity to learn more and more, but as well learning on the process. Like it's a growing mindset. Like you grow yourself, you grow your team, and you grow your organization. And it's when you make this growth. So thank you very much. Have a super nice weekend. And innovate, because it's the key for growth.
I'm going to go for that walk in the forest.
Thanks.
That's going to happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good trip.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much, Belle. See you.
Bye.
Bye.